In times of trauma and adversity, we must create space for connection by sharing a story of hope. Welcome to Humans of Hope, Inspiring Stories, hosted by Kerry Atherton. This podcast shares inspiring stories of individuals who have faced significant challenges and emerged stronger, offering hope and resilience to listeners all over the world. Join Kerry, the founder of Stories of Hope Worldwide, every week to hear these remarkable journeys and find the strength to overcome your adversity. Now, let's listen in to this week's conversation.
Today we're going to be talking to another amazing guest, Tim Trickey, and we're going to be speaking about life in the music industry and in particular mental health in the music industry. But we're going to be hearing today about Tim, a young musician's story of hope through all the ups and downs of living in the music world. Welcome to Stories of Hope, Tim.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Kerry.
Yeah, how's life in Newcastle?
Life in Newcastle is always wonderful. Such a beautiful part of the world. But, as far as the current climate goes, music-wise, not being able to gig too much, it's interesting. It's different.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And that's something I'll probably want to touch on a bit later, is the impact that COVID's had on the music industry and the mental health of musicians in particular. But getting back to Newcastle, that's where we met, wasn't it? I remember driving you to acting lessons with my daughter.
We would have been about, 12, 13?
Yeah, something like that. And you had
Miss Clipsham. I remember her name, Miss Clipsham.
And you had big dreams back then to be either. Now, we had something in common because when I was that age, I also had big dreams to be either an actress or a famous musician. But
are those dreams still alive or what?
No. Alcoholism and pill addiction stole my dreams.
Okay.
And these days I work helping people rebuild their lives after addiction and recover from the aftermath. But you stayed on track. Your dreams weren't stolen and you had the same dreams and you're living that dream today, aren't you?
Oh, I don't know if it's as simple as that, Gary. I mean, it's never smooth sailing all the way through when you're chasing something that you're passionate about. But there's always going to be that ebb and flow, baby. That's what you can't have the ups without the downs. So no, it's not all peachy. But as long as you kind of got your eye set on what you want, I think that gives you a grounding.
Yeah, and I think that's the pivotal thing is that you've stayed the course. You had a dream and a desire, and we'll talk about all the ups and downs of that. But you have stayed the course. And what I want to know is what was it back then? Because so many young people have a dream and have a desire, and they fall off the tracks. They really lose their way. What was it that actually kept you grounded and kept you plugged into your dream and desire and heading for that?
Yeah, look, for me personally, growing up in the church, so I was in the church from pretty much when I was born, really. My folks were Christians, and growing up in that environment, I'm thankful for it so much now. Even though I'm not a churchgoer now, I am so thankful for that upbringing, mostly because of the opportunities I got with performing and playing and songwriting, mostly performing, I guess. So you wouldn't call it performing in the church, but playing music in front of a congregation, leading a congregation in worship, praise, that sort of thing. From such a young age, you're in that eye, you know what I mean? You develop this sense of comfortability on stage, this leadership skills, all sorts of things. And I think that Christian grounding with those good morals really helped me, especially when I was transitioning out of the church in my early 20s, helped me kind of keep my way, and rather than have this foundation that I'd had since I was a kid ripped out from underneath me and just be falling. There was a bit of that time, I guess, but it's something to just your centerboard keeps you steady through the storm. And for me, it was just really appreciating the fact that I that I had come out at the age I was, with these skills, with this experience, and that was something pretty special that I could use that a lot of other people wouldn't have had those opportunities, people that shared the same passion as myself. So I guess I'm just really grateful for that upbringing that I had. I had a very good upbringing and
Yeah.
lots of opportunities.
You've got great parents.
They're awesome, mum and dad.
Yeah.
Love them lots. I just think when it comes to music, the most important thing is your sense of musicianship and your feel, your rhythm, your inner metronome, that groove, who you are in your soul, what you have in your soul, I should say. But look, you really only develop that when by playing with other musos and being put in that pressure where you are playing in front of other people and you're not playing to tracks. You might be playing to a metronome, but you're relying on your fellow muso who are your best mates as well. And it's just it was a cool upbringing, From when I was about 9, I think I was on stage in front of hundreds of people, and then by the time I was 16, I was a music director for a church with a congregation of like 2.5, 3,000 people. So
Right.
you just don't get that sort of opportunity anywhere in the secular world.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity, isn't it?
Indeed.
So what would you consider to be like your first kind of big break?
Oh, look, I don't even think I've had a big break yet, to be honest with you. It's always relative, isn't it? And you're always looking above. You're always looking at the person that you idolize or that
Yeah.
influences you, and you see where they're at, and you're always chasing. You're never there, and you never want to be there. I don't think it keeps you going, keeps you driving. But look, I mean, I've had a few good opportunities, good things happen to me throughout my career. The band that I've been playing in bands in pubs, clubs since I was pretty much 16. Every Friday, Saturday night, and freelance and playing with all different types of bands. And the band I'm playing with now, we've just got a really good manager, and it's a good mix, it's a good formula. So we've seen some pretty good success over the last 4 or 5 years in the country pop rock world.
That's
So yeah,
great.
very lucky, very blessed.
So we kind of touched on it just then when I said when was your first big break? Because being a musician myself, obviously, I still play and I've written a lot of songs and still sing.
Voice of an angel.
Oh, thank you. Not in a band, so spend a lot of time with my metronome. But there's always this strive and drive, isn't there, to recreate, regenerate, to keep things moving. Like you said, you don't ever arrive in the music industry. There's always something more that you want to achieve, or another tune, or is this good enough, or is this going to be the one? And so what is success in the music world in your eyes, and at what cost does it come?
It's a very good question. For me personally, and I've had this chat with so many musos over the years, and it seems to be a pretty common theme that as a musician, at the end of the day, it's not work because it's what you're passionate about. Most of the time, we're all creative people, and when you're a creative person, you're normally more susceptible to being a more emotional person. I
Yeah.
think it's just comes with the territory.
Yeah.
And so I think for me and a lot of people I know, success would just be measured by being able to earn a living and survive, maybe pay off a house, you know what I mean, through music, through doing the thing that you love. You don't it's not about the all the fame and the glory. It's just being thankful to be able to go out and play my instrument that, the thing I've honed my craft on and to be able to entertain people with that and get paid to do that, there's no better feeling in the world. And if you don't have to do anything else, if you can live off that, that's success. Not living lavish, living inside your means. That would be, I've made it, to me.
That's the ultimate dream, isn't it?
It is.
I'd still love to be a musician, but I'm a counsellor.
Hey, you're definitely doing more good for the world.
Well,
All we're doing is entertaining people.
oh gosh, yeah. I mean but music saves lives.
You're not wrong. Yeah.
And it's something that when COVID hit last year played a huge role for me in helping preserve my mental health, which, even as a counselor and someone who helps other people with their mental health, I found mine really struggling. And music was one of the things that I turned to help preserve my mental health.
That's lovely to hear. What kind of stuff, like just messing around, songwriting, just playing in general?
Well, it was more just putting music on as soon as I woke up, because the thoughts that we have at the beginning of the day will frame the rest of our day. And so I had to build some routines into my life because, as you know, musicians, we really don't know what that word means too well, routine.
Accurate.
Yeah. So I had to build some small routines into my life. And one of those was as soon as I wake up, put happy music on. So I would have the music playing, and it just really lifted my mood. It stops the negative thinking and the spiral going on. And I did get back into the piano and start learning new songs. So there was a lot about music that really helped me through, my mental health journey through COVID.
Oh, that's so good to hear, and that's the beauty of music, isn't it? Is that you don't have to understand behind the curtain or the theory and the performance side of it to enjoy it and to get the exact same satisfaction that a musician gets out of it. Well, it's such a cool thing, isn't it?
That's right.
Mm.
There's something I really want to touch on is because social media, I say this a lot when I'm, talking to different people about the danger of comparison. And I think comparison is a huge detriment to, mental health, because comparison is something that we all measure success by, or how we're actually doing, by comparing ourselves to what we're seeing on social media. And so that's what I want to ask you as a musician, because there's no greater world in which people would compare themselves than in the music world. So what role is comparison having to the downward spiral of mental health in the music world?
The grass is always greener, isn't it? You're always looking at what the other person's got. It's there's a lot of layers to that question. See, it's something I always say to my mates who are down on themselves. They put all this pressure on themselves, and you start to feel a bit of that black dog. You're not feeling well. I just say, think of all the things. Like, I'll give you an example of specifically to that person. You know what I mean? Think of all the things you're good at. For you, think about you're helping people, you counseling, you're playing piano, just general, just the fact that you can listen to music and you can let that alter your mood in a good way. These are all things that you just got to appreciate about yourself, because no one else can appreciate it for you. These
Yeah.
are things that are good things that you're implementing in your life, good habits, things you're doing to move forward. And if you're looking for that other person's approval, or you're comparing yourself to these other people going, yeah, I'm doing well, but look at how they're doing and look at how much better they are at me at this, or whatever, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because you're the only person at the end of the day who can appreciate that about yourself, and in turn get that feeling of satisfaction, and have some inner peace and have some self-confidence, a good self-concept, because of the choices you're making. But if you're always looking at that, the other person, and comparing yourself or looking for their approval, you're never ever going to be whole. You're always going to be chasing something that isn't there. You know what I mean? It's not going to lead to anywhere. It's interesting. I could talk about that for yonks,
Oh,
but
I know.
that's my opinion on it.
No, that's great. And that's something that I think especially every young person needs to hear, because they're growing up in this world of it always looks greener on the screen. And
Oh yeah.
many people just post about what's great in their life, but you don't see the real stuff, the behind the scenes, the hours in the music studio, oh, I don't like that song anymore. I'm over that. This isn't going to work. That's not going to work. And there's hours and hours behind, making a song, isn't there? And people don't see that behind the scenes stuff. They only see the end product and what people put out there as the good stuff.
Yeah, and when you're coming up the ranks, I'm sure for you as well, when you're looking up those people who are in the scene doing that thing that you go, I want to do that one day. That's something I'm passionate about, and you you can't understand something unless you can relate to it. These people have gone through it. You're going through it, and it's funny when when you choose a path at a young age, or it gets put in your lap and you realize it's something you like doing or passionate about. Also, just as a side note, if you're not passionate about anything, it shouldn't be a discouraging message in the slightest. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure everyone who says, "Oh, I'm not passionate about anything. I don't care about anything." You dig a little bit. There's always something there, some little spark that you're interested in or passionate about. But it's also never too late to go out and find something that you're interested in. A lot of the time you're not interested in it at first. It takes a bit of time before you understand. You go, "Whoa, this really sparks my curiosity," or this is something I want to look into a bit more. Anyway, on a tangent there.
That leads into, what is it that pulls you out of the dark times? Because you've had some dark times on your journey as a musician, haven't you?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Um,
Can you tell us about your hardest time?
Look, I think probably for me, the the most uncharted waters for me that I went through was when I left the church, and I didn't really know anything else. So all I knew was what I've been told from a young age, and I'd be up on stage every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, going to the church rehearsal every Wednesday night, and you've got you got a lot of pressure on your shoulders. And for me, I just went, I can't do this anymore. I've got lots of things I need to figure out about myself before I can be leading all these people, and with a muddy head. So left the church, and there went a lot of my foundations immediately. And so for those next 2 years, that was it was a pretty dark time for me, because I not only had to not only had to find something else that I could ground myself, and I can figure out what I was about, and make sure if I was going to go back to the church that it'd be on my terms, and I knew why I was going back to the church. It'd be because of my decisions, which I didn't end up doing. But I threw everything into music, so I was just gigging, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. Sometimes Tuesday, Thursday nights during the week, playing for whoever. Just needed the money, wanted to play, and you reach this point where your passion, the thing that you used to drive you, the thing that you used to think about all the time, cruising around in your car, whatever you're doing, it's what you're thinking about, became it became a job. It became mundane, and it actually became a trudge to load my car up, go to a gig, play a gig. You start in the first set, you'd be like, we got, you know, 12 more songs of this set to go. Then we got 2 more sets after that. What time are we going to be home? Won't be home till like 1 in the morning. It's not fun anymore. And that's pretty rough spot to be when you're almost hating that thing that used to be your everything. So for what I did, I just realized I had to step away. So I stepped away for about a year, and just playing at home, but didn't really want to play too much, and it wasn't that thing that grounded me anymore. And I realized that once I came back to it, after I started to miss it, I came back in, and I never took it for granted. I understand what a fragile thing it was to love that thing that you're doing, and for it to be something that you've invested so many hours in throughout your life, in all the different circumstances. And now that's something that you can do, you can understand, you can hear chords, and you can slot into kind of any progression that's going on, to hear where it's going. To get to that level, it takes, you don't realize it at the time, but when you're growing up, this is all just being instilled into you. And all of a sudden you've got this skill. And for me, it was just really appreciating that. Come back to what I was saying before, appreciating that about myself, appreciating that I could do that with humility, and knowing that that's something that I can contribute to the world. And I know the power of music, because I know how much, same as you, As soon as I wake up in the morning, radio's on. I'm connecting to my speaker, and whatever I'm doing, I'm washing the dishes, I'm doing a workout, there's music playing, because if I'm doing it in silence, then I'm in my own head. I'm thinking
Yeah.
about, as you know, you're stewing, and it's pointless. Like, you don't have to put yourself in that mindset. You know what I mean? So I think that was probably the darkest time for me, when I hated my passion. But look, I mean, at the moment, at first, when I'm sure there's so many people out there, musos especially, in the sense that that's what this talks about, I guess. But in any profession, it's pretty rough when you're told by the government you can't work. This is your bread and butter. This is the thing you're passionate about. My advice to anyone who's in that position would be to just look at it as like a sabbatical. Going back to the church terms, I can't help it. Sorry, but a sabbatical, when your time in the desert, as you might say. Step away. It's not forever. Hone your craft. Get creative. You got all this time, and it's not just with music, it's with anything. It's if hone your craft, get better at the thing you do, so that when this all blows over, if it blows over anytime soon, then you're starting with the right foot forward. You're good to go. You know what you're about. If you're not passionate about anything, spend a bit of time experimenting with different things. See what sparks your interest. There's no other perfect time to do it than right now.
That's right. No, and it's so true. And I think one of the most frightening things for people is to walk away from the thing that they love, or the thing they've invested so much time in. It's scary ground on the other side of that. But like you said, when it's been taken away, yes, something I mean, I couldn't run any of my events, so I started to do online events. And I thought, there's the big word pivot, how are we going to repivot everything and that, through COVID. But I thought, what can I do? And so I started doing more study in mental health and getting more qualified. And I thought that's the best thing that I can do when I can't do what I really want to do, is to try and get better at what I was doing before, ready for the next season. But it is scary to think I'm going to walk away from that and have a break. Like
Oh,
not
yeah.
many people could do that.
Definitely. Yeah, you nailed it. And I mean, that's something you're passionate about. I remember, even though I would have been early teens, I can remember that spark in you, that you just had this natural interest in people, and this desire to help them and see them improve, not from any sort of selfishness. It was just because you wanted to see the best in people. And that's something that you possess that a lot of people don't. And people go, wow, that's something you can do. But you look at it and you go, it's just who I am. It's just what I'm passionate about. You know what I mean? And that's something for you to appreciate about yourself. But here we are, 15, 20 years later, and it's the same thing that puts that sparkle in your eye that you want to get better at. I love to see that. That's so cool.
Oh, thanks, Tim. And I think the thing is that because I've suffered, because I've been through a lot of things, I don't want other people to have to go through that alone. There's nothing like listening to the story of someone that's come out the other side to bring the greatest hope to the person that's still on the journey. And that's why I was pretty excited about speaking to you, because a lot of people on this journey, and I'm hearing, from a lot of musicians that they're struggling through, especially through COVID. And there's nothing like listening to someone like you who is, despite what's going on in the world, you're still going behind the scenes for your dream. You're still hanging in there. And like you said, you've been through the hard times, you've walked away, and you've come back, and you've come back with a passion that's stronger than before.
Yeah, you can't let anything dictate what you're going to do. You can't let COVID dictate it. It's out of your control. It's one of those things that we just have to deal with, and until we can go out again, until we can get many people in the same room. So, it's out of your control. So what do? You make the best of the situation. You don't have a choice. You either go down the slippery hill, and you re-guess everything, and you put yourself into this state of mind that's not productive, and really you're the only one that's suffering, or you try and push forward in other ways, in whatever way you can.
And I
I
think
don't think you have much of a choice.
yeah, and I think like something that we hear a lot, and I know it to be true, is creatives are very complex people, and many
To
creatives,
simplify.
yeah, many creatives fall down to addictions. I mean, in an essence, music and trying to create and that can become a full-on addiction in itself, you know. And then when musicians aren't hitting the mark like they feel like they should, and the creative mind takes over, so many of them turn to other addictions to cope with that emptiness and that loneliness and that discouragement and that despair and that feeling of, you know, I'm less than, and I'm not measuring up, and you see it a lot, don't you?
Oh, it's everywhere. Look, I'm guilty of it myself, big time. And it's not something that just goes away and you don't have that urge there anymore. It's not in the back of your head. Here's my easy escape, or it's always there. It's always a struggle if you've been through it before. You know what I mean? But it helps. It definitely helps if you've got something else that you can fill that time with. I think a lot of it comes down to just being busy, keeping busy. It's going to be easy to keep busy if you've got something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are those self-care strategies for you? So it's basically the toolbox to keep yourself mentally well when times are hard.
Look, I haven't got any acronyms for you, but for me, it's pretty simple. My outlet is playing music. So if I'm at home, I'll try and sit down and play piano or sit down and play guitar rather than watch TV, or when I can still watch a lot of telly, especially these days. But my favorite things to do. I don't think there's a general thing for everyone. Maybe there is. Who knows? Not me. For me, it's just when I've got music cranking around the house. It's on my Spotify playlist. I'll just have all different songs that I've been hearing. I'll just make radio stations off them, so I'm always listening to music that I haven't heard before that interests me. And as I'm doing my stuff throughout the day, throughout the house, in the yard, whatever, I'll just sit down. If it's a song I'm like, oh yeah, cool. I'll sit down and I'll just play along to the chord progression of it, just figure it out, and then just solo along. And sometimes I'll sit down and the song will end and I'll be like, cool, no worries, back to what I was doing. Next song. And sometimes I'll be like, that's a sick progression. This is, that change is really cool to solo over, whatever. I'll just put on pause and I'll just sit there for like 2-3 hours, just put that progression in a loop and just play off it, solo off it. So, run what other chords are there, and then sometimes you start writing a song out of that. So for me, it's 100%. It's 100% music, Kobe. If I didn't have music, I'd spiral big time.
You exercise as well, though, don't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Exercise is a huge thing. I don't like to, it's very important. Exercising, extremely important for me, especially because I've got ADHD. So I've just learnt that if I don't exercise, I'm a horrible person to be around. I don't sleep properly. I can't think properly. So I need to be active. I don't like to preach that onto people because, everyone's got to make their own choice towards it. And that, again, that's something to be passionate. That's something you can be completely passionate about. That can be your world, is fitness and exercising and understanding your body more, whatever. But it definitely helps for anyone. That's for sure.
It's about
feeling down, exercise.
Healthy outlets, isn't it?
Yeah. Spot on.
So you talked to me about when we were talking prior to the interview, you gave me a quote that you love, and it was that it's better to burn out than fade away.
Kurt Cobain.
Favorite quotes. So yeah, tell me a bit about that and the relevance of that for you.
Well, I see burning out. I've seen burnout. It's a real thing. I've seen it in the church. I've seen it in I was a high school teacher as well. Still am a high school teacher. I've seen a lot in that world. I've seen a lot in the muso world. It's a real thing. And if you push yourself really hard at something, you're going to burn out. Now, look, that in itself is a negative thing, burnout. There's strategies for working towards that. But the other end of the spectrum is fading away. And I've seen it a lot in the music circles, but a lot just with my mates in general, my mates that I went to school with, that I've met over the years, whatever, whatever it is, you smoke too much weed, take too many pills, you just lose your desire, you lose your attachment with the real world. Yeah. And at first feels good. It's cool. It's an escape. But it doesn't lead anywhere. It doesn't lead to any place happy or fulfilling. So
It's a very sad decline down into the mental health spiral, isn't it?
it is. Yeah, it's not
Away.
pretty.
Yeah.
And you can relate to it.
Yeah.
I'm sure most people in the world can relate to it in one way or the other, to wherever it is on that spectrum. But it's not a nice place to be. And substance abuse is a big thing that causes that. I've had issues with substance abuse. I know a lot of people who've had issues with substance abuse. It's not something to be ashamed of, I don't think. I just think it's about pressing forward and coming back to the quote, you can either fade away or you can burn out. And it's better to burn out than it is to fade away. So if you're moving towards something, when you burn out, you've gone too far. That's fine. You come back.
Yeah.
But if you're fading away, if anything, you're giving up. You know what I mean? You don't have anything that's pushing you forward anymore.
Yeah.
You got nothing that's making you want to get out of bed in the morning. You're not a happy person to be around. People aren't going to want to be around you like that. Yeah, it's better to burn out than to fade away. I hope that explains it.
No, definitely. I know exactly where you're coming from. And there's a verse that says people perish through lack of vision.
Yeah.
And nothing's sadder than when somebody feels like they got nothing to live for.
Oh yeah, it's
really
pretty sad, isn't it?
that someone's given up then, and it's one of the main things that I talk to counselling clients about is just set small goals, that just have set things, small things even that you got something to look forward to, because we all need something to look forward to in life.
Yeah, wow. Doing what you do, I couldn't do it because I wouldn't know what to say, and I can't get myself out of that hole. So you've obviously gotten yourself out of that hole at some point, whether it was with the help of people or by yourself. You have to do a measure of it by yourself.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. You know what I mean? Now to be able to pass that on because you've been forged in the fire like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool, Kerry.
Yeah, well, I got to that point where, I was living for my music career, and my piano teacher said, you've got to go to the conservatorium. You've got a real future in this. And I said, what I'm going to do is have a year off, and I'm going to save up, and then I'll come back to the music when I'm 17. And I ended up so lost in addiction that, I never made it. And at 18, I planned to end my life, but I made a call to a 12-step line that day. And you were talking about the help of people. It was the help of people who had done the journey before me that helped me turn my life around. And it was at that point that I had this real deep desire forged then to, if I had anything to do with it, to not let anyone else go as far as I did. And so I ended up, like you, working in schools and working with young people, not as a teacher, but to help them not end up on the same trajectory that I did.
That's something that is important for everyone to remember, isn't it? Is that if you are in that spot, like where you were, where, it's easy to end it all. I've had enough.
Yeah.
People are better off without me around. Whatever's going through your head, it might not be easy, but the best thing to do is to always reach out to someone.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I think about the kind of life that I've had, and the amount of people that I've been able to help, it's still gets me very emotional to think that I nearly took that away. And that in itself is a message to anybody out there, that wants to give up. When we've both talked about reason not to give up today, which I think is really important, especially in the climate and the uncertainty in the world today. What is your message for anybody in the music industry or the creative industry or anyone in general, any guy, any person that's struggling with the fact that their dreams might be kind of slipping away?
Well,
tough questions, Tim.
These are the hard-hitting questions you're throwing at me. Look, I don't know everything. I'm not the be all. I don't. I'm still learning every day, and I think it's important to be. I think if you are really struggling with the climate at the moment in whatever industry you're in, for musos especially, there's a great site. It's called Support Act. They'll help you with any mental health questions you've got. They can give you a lot of good advice. That's specifically for musos. But I think it's coming back to what I said before, because I've known people who've struggled with it worse than I have, and I've seen them get to that very end line where it's not worth it anymore. And it would just be such a shame if you had so much pride. Oh, it's not even pride, is it? It's whatever's stopping you from talking to someone, because there's no shame in talking to someone. That would be my advice. Stay social. Keep in touch with people. Have someone that you're accountable to. Have someone that, even if you have to go out and find someone, and it's someone that's their job to do. There's no shame in that. Have someone that you have a consistent contact with, that knows about what's going on in your life, in your situation, that you can vent to, that can give you some advice, whether it might be a loved one, it might be a mate. Don't go through it on your own. Don't think you have to isolate yourself. There's no pride in that. No shame in reaching out to anyone. So, yeah, stay in touch with the people around you. Don't go through it yourself, because even just vocalizing things, just as the simple concept of saying it out loud and not just saying it to yourself in your head, that's therapeutic in itself. Give it a shot. If you're there and you're going, I don't know what else to do, I don't know who to talk to, what path to take. If you're a muso, call that support our client. It's really good. There's plenty of contact lines that you can call if outside the music world.
Yeah, Lifeline, Big on Blue. That's really great to know that about the music line, though.
Yeah, I hear a lot of good things about it. They just want to help.
So before we come to a close, I want to finish where we kind of started with, and that was young Tim, who had all the dreams and the life ahead, the passion, the drive. And what would you say to any young person out there who loves music or is a creative and that's what they really want to do with their life?
Run with it. Hone your craft. Your instrument, whether it be your voice or whatever it is, trumpet, sax, keys, guitar, bass, drums, whatever, hone it. Put time into it. Invest into it. There's nothing more valuable you can invest than your time into something. And no matter what you invest your time in, it's always going to pay off one way or another in the long run. You never know what's coming when you're older, because life seems like it's going real slow when you're young and I've got plenty of time and this and that, whatever. But get older and you start to really assess, what have I spent my time doing? And if you're passionate about music, it's a high turnover game, I'll tell you. There's always new musos in the mix, and doesn't matter what degree you've got. If you've got a degree in music, your audition is every new gig you turn up to or every new person you play with. So be playing. Just be playing all the time. Be playing with a metronome. Even if you're a singer, I think it's a good idea to learn an instrument, even just basically, so for your own good, so you can understand music a bit better. But that's what we always say to each other in our band is like, if you make a mistake, it's on you, it's no one else, and you will give each other crap about that.
Yeah.
Because it's your instrument. You hone your craft. Or you didn't hone your craft very well this week. You've been a bit slack on your practice. You know what I mean? Not afraid to call each other out about it, because at the end of the day, it's you. You're your own entity, and you got to sell yourself as your own business and the service that you can provide. So invest in yourself. There's no one, especially when you're young and you're single, you can be a bit selfish like that. You just invest in yourself. So yeah, spend your time wisely.
That's great. And don't compare yourself to anyone else.
Another great point, 100%.
Yeah. And never give up. So many times, I mean, I know in my own life, I've thought, oh, far out, this is too hard, I feel like giving up. And then I've just hung on that little bit longer. And the next day, the greatest opportunity's been around the corner. And I'm sure you've had many of those moments yourself. Yeah,
I'm so glad you said that, actually, because that's so true. Things change very quickly, day to day, don't they? And one day you feel like, that's it. I've exhausted all my opportunities, nothing left to live for. I'm done. Hanging up my hat, whatever. But then the next day, it's completely different. Yeah, that genuinely, that has happened to me so many times. So yeah, that resonated with me. Thank you, Kerry, for sure.
Hey, the bad times, this too shall pass. And just tell us, before we say goodbye, just tell us a little bit about your new song and the band and what you're up to as soon as you're out of lockdown?
Oh, we've got some big things coming up. It's starting to happen again for us in August, which is nice. So we'll see what happens with COVID. But I mean, in the country world, we do a lot of the Ute Musters and the BNSs and the big festivals and that sort of thing. So we've got some things coming into the calendar now. If you're interested in checking us out, feel free. It's Hurricane Fall like falling, and the new song, Another One More Time. Just a song about a girl.
Okay, yeah. Good thing to write about.
It's always the go-to if you're got a bit of writer's block. Write about a girl.
Yeah, and I'm sure a
something.
lot of people can relate to the relationship stuff. Well, thank you, Tim. It's been so great chatting to you today.
Thanks for having me, Kerry. Anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Humans of Hope Inspiring Stories with Kerry Atherton. If this conversation helped you, please consider sharing the podcast with a friend or leave a rating and review on your podcast player. Thank you to Matthew Bliss for podcast production and consultation, and to Kintsugi Heroes for making this podcast possible. If you'd like to find out more about Kerry Atherton, head to storiesofhope.com.au, where you can purchase her books or find out where her next event is taking place. Check the show notes for links and information about our guest in this episode. And remember, you don't have to walk your path alone.